Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. And if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Sure. My name's Jordanna Saunders. I live in the Phoenix metro area, and I own and operate a small mental health clinic called Trauma Recovery Services of Arizona.
Awesome. So can you just tell me more about just how you got into this and how you got the idea to open this clinic?
Sure. It was driven initially by necessity. He's a teenager now, but my son at the time has special needs and he was having difficulty at school. He's grown into his ADHD a lot, but early on it was really a challenge trying to get him to school. And at the time I was working for a tribal community and we had a really long commute. And so someone said to me, why don't you work for yourself? And it was sort of a strange kind of question that I had really never considered before. And it sort of led me down the path to say, is this something that I want to do? Is there a need for what I do in the town that I live in? And the answer was yes. So it kind of began from there. Yeah.
So can you share with me, I guess, what does it look like in terms of a type of clients that you work with? What is a typical use case where somebody would really get the most value from working with you?
I would say, we treat a broad sort of range of concerns. People that would get the most value from working with me specifically as a practitioner probably would be adult women who have had trauma of some sort, whether it was childhood trauma due to an abusive marriage, or a one-time incident that maybe changed their life. So whether it was, and a lot of times it's either, life itself, maybe they were in a natural disaster, or it's human caused. So something tragic happened and they were involved in that situation.
Understood. So are most of your clients local in the Phoenix metro area, or do you see people all across the country?
Most of our clients are local, but we see people in the state of Arizona. So anyone in the state of Arizona that is age 13 or older can see us.
Awesome. So how many people do you have working with you in the clinic?
A few hundred right now.
But I'm saying in terms of coworkers, or I guess people that work underneath you. Yeah.
So what does our staff look like in
the
staff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think we have 10 or 11 practitioners right now. We're just onboarding a few more. We just hired one and we have 2 more coming on board. A various combination of full and part-time employees. All of those are licensed practitioners, master's level or higher. We have 2 folks that have PhDs. All of them specialize in trauma-informed care. They all provide services virtually. We have front office staff that are responsible for screening clients when they first call or when they first reach out to the practice. If they're using insurance, they'll verify their benefits, or if they're coming in our low, no-cost clinic, they coordinate with them to get them on a sliding scale fee, get them in for services. So it's a pretty robust clinic. And then we have 2 clinical supervisors that provide supervision to our licensed associate practitioners. Because in our state, there's 2 tiers of licensing. There's associate and then there's independent licensing.
Makes sense. So what would you say is the biggest challenge that you face in your business today?
Oh gosh, I guess maybe just pick a date and time. Yeah, I would say access to equitable capital was a big challenge for a long time. Capital for minority women, I think, is still something that is not as accessible as it should be. There still are a lot of challenges for us to secure capital, especially in a healthcare business, because healthcare businesses go through a lot of working capital because our accounts receivable can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 3, 4, 5 months. And so in the meantime, we still have to do service delivery for our patients as well as pay the folks that are doing that service delivery. So I would say that historically has been the biggest issue, is trying to make sure that we have enough working capital as we're growing, because it seems like every time we grow, we hit a new plateau. And then, fortunately, we're blessed to get more work. So it's just this constant up and down of, do we have enough working capital? Is the runway big enough? And then looking at things strategically to say, where are we staying true to our mission, our vision, and what we value as practitioners?
So I guess, like, how do you keep this growth, right? Because you mentioned that you're growing, you've hired lots of people since you've started, but in terms of continuing to grow, like obviously now, like the year's about to end, I'm sure you're focused on next year goals, but like I guess growing in parallel with, as you mentioned, right, having enough staff and having enough clients to fill all the appointments, available for the staff. Like, how do you make sure that you keep scaling this business in a good manner?
A lot of communication, I would say, following up on opportunities and not knowing necessarily whether those opportunities are going to pan out in the long run. But being open to that, I think, is really important. I mean, I think in graduate school, one of the things I learned was that employment wasn't just dependent on your credentials, but also who you know. And I feel like as a business owner, it's very similar. Like, are you still going out and participating in coalitions, community building activities? Are you still showing up for entities? For example, my tribe recently reached out to us because they were doing a raffle for their employees. We don't do any business with them right now, but we have supported them in their own efforts, by either making flyers for them, doing some psycho ed, and then recently donating items for their employee raffle. And I think maintaining relationships is really like a key, I would say. I don't know if it's a trick or a strategy, or if that's just cultural wisdom, that you maintain relationships to, sustain what you're building.
But if most of your clients come in, like, do you partner with these organizations and they bring you clients, or have you run ads? Like, how do you get people in the door for your business?
Our biggest source of referrals is word of mouth. Like
So,
we've tried a lot of that. We've tried doing social marketing. I think one of the limits that we face based on our size, because we're in an industry that's really competitive. So we're competing with large conglomerates that are often backed by hospital systems. And so as a small clinic, we're also a niche clinic in that we also provide low, no cost services. So we're sort of an anomaly. We're like a hybrid clinic. We're not 100% cash based, like, because our value is being able to provide services across the spectrum of social economic status, gender identity, cultural identity, any of those things. And so I think our biggest source of referral is word of mouth, usually existing clients will refer friends and family, or again, those touch points where we've been out doing community work in some way, and it was like a friend of a friend. Somebody will say, oh, we tried calling this other place and we couldn't get in. And I remembered you guys did a presentation in our community. Would you be able to help this person? So then we're able to get connected to them, and those folks become our patients. So that's our number one way that we get clients. The other way that we get clients recently is we recently redid our website, and it's a lot more user friendly than what it was before, probably because I was the one that was managing it. And as an entrepreneur, I think you get to the point where you realize your skill set is limited. And so you have to bring someone else in that is more of an expert in that area. And so we were able to partner with a really great company called Hive Source, and they redid our website for us. And that has been our second biggest source of referrals.
So when it comes to redoing your website, is it more of just, obviously it gets more user friendly? Maybe you have like, better SEO, people to find you on Google as well.
Yeah. And I think the thing too is, like, we realized a few years ago that with Google, I had a marketing consultant that sort of coined it. I'm sure this is standard in their industry, like pay to play. right? Like when we don't do Google ads, we don't show up in like therapists near me. But when we do Google ads, even if our ads themselves are not driving in clients, the fact that we're paying for ads leads us to show up in more searches. And
Right.
so it's this weird thing where one doesn't seem to have a lot to do with the other, at least from my sense. But again, I'm not a marketing expert by any means. I'm an expert in what we do through trial and error, a lot of it. So I would say that we definitely have noticed certain things that happen. It's like, okay, let's remove this and see what happens. And we remove it and we go, oh, okay, well, now we're not showing up in this. So then we add that back, right?
For sure. So in terms of, I mean, so that's like, yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. But I guess like in terms of your company, right? And because you mentioned that you do free and low cost services. So do you, for example, for those services get reimbursed by the state, or how do you, I guess like how are you able to offer those services to your clients?
So that's a great question. Historically, the way that we've been able to do it is by recruiting practitioners that were also social justice inclined. So having conversations with practitioners. So in the beginning, of course, I did all the interviewing. Once we brought our practice manager on, she shadowed me and then she took over that process. But we have a very deliberate way that we interview folks to make sure that they also have a commitment to serve those communities. And so for some of our staff, they take a lower rate of reimbursement for those sessions. So it really truly is them showing up for those folks. We limit it to 20% of all the practice's services. It comes out of the business bottom line, right? Because obviously you have to keep the lights on at the end of the day. But recently we were able to partner with TRSAZ. So they're going to do some fiscal sponsorship and we're going to do some fundraising so that we can sustain and grow that clinic. But as of right now, we don't receive any external funds or financial support for the clinic. But I will say that we have had a lot of positive experiences and a lot of support in other ways because of our work in the clinic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it seems like you guys are doing great work, and that's awesome that you're able to partner with a non-for-profit that's raising money. And if they can help you out, as you said, right, then you can offer more of those free
Yeah.
or low-cost services.
Yeah.
So obviously now people are looking for ways to use high-level technology. Because so you mentioned your website, but I was curious if you guys use AI for your business, and if not, like where do you think AI could come in and help you out?
Yeah, we are interested in using AI. We have been cautious about its use. Obviously, more and more there's applications that are coming out. I've done some preliminary research about it. One area that I think it could potentially be very helpful for us is in terms of aiding therapists' documentation. So that's a big area right now that still is in research and development, and there are companies that are doing that. Someone actually reached out through LinkedIn the other day and sent us some stuff. I guess Mayo Clinic and Stanford have a program now that they're starting to deploy, and it's starting to move into behavioral health as well. I think for us, it's like weighing the risks and the benefits, right? Because AI can be very helpful, but also where does that data go? And that's protected health information. And so we're just kind of treading lightly and sort of watching the industry and seeing what are the uses for it. But I think that area is an area that we're definitely interested in because as our clinical staff, are working, we want to maximize their ability to work with patients and reduce the paperwork burden.
But do you feel like AI could come in a way where it's more conversational? For example, if somebody's on your website and if they have certain questions, because you are such a niche clinic, they could be there asking questions saying, hey, like what services do you offer? Like, would I be a good fit? Like, how does it work for low cost services? Like, do I qualify? Like those types of questions. Do you think that AI could add value in that way as well?
Yeah, potentially. I think so. I think, again, it's just we haven't gotten good case studies yet. Like, I want to see the research. I want to see it demonstrated. I don't want to be the test pilot, but I want to benefit, right? So it's like, when do we jump in?
Right.
When do evaluate. And so right now we're kind of just watching and seeing this unfold and saying, how does this work for us, and how are other entities using it, and what are they learning through that use?
For sure. So what would you say are in terms of your goals for 2024? Like, are you looking to bring on more staff, or like in terms of revenue percentage, like how much do you want to scale from this year to next year?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I would say if it was up to me, I think scaling by about 25%, but that hasn't really been the way it's been going. I think that we're kind of on this trajectory because of the work that we do, and we do at least our feedback and what we see from our data is that we're doing excellent work, and so we see that reinforced by getting more work. And so I'm a social entrepreneur, so revenue is a number that I use to calculate how many more people can I hire.
Right.
Versus, how many vacations to Tahiti can I take?
Right, for sure. But I
So
guess so your goal is to hire more people, help more people. So if you were
yeah,
to scale by 25%, you could help more people. So I guess like what is the biggest obstacle that's in the way from where you're at now to getting to that number next year?
working capital and internal expertise. Because like I said, you get to the point where you can only rely on your knowledge or lack thereof so far. Like and the bigger we get, the more we need experts in certain areas. So like bringing on a marketing specialist, bringing on an IT specialist, right? Those sorts of things they're not going to bring us immediate revenue, but they're going to sustain and flush out the areas that we really maybe could be better, right? Because that's always the thing in entrepreneurship, like what could be better. And again, going back to, does this fit with our mission and value and where we're going as a company? I think the other area that we're looking to expand is really to be able to expand to provide more services to tribal communities, especially in rural areas. That's like a huge, huge area of need. Northern Arizona, for example, it's very rural there. We're also watching broadband expansion in Indian country because that's directly correlated with the work we do. They have to have reliable internet access in order to be able to do telehealth video visits. Smartphones are everywhere on the reservations, but data, do they have access to large swaths of data? Are there cell towers near the places they reside? So as infrastructure is being built, I think that increases our opportunity to be able to serve those communities as well. Like I would
No.
love to serve New Mexico, where I'm from. So all of that's on our like global vision, like our bigger vision, but a lot of it's dependent on, systems being in place so that we can be successful in those areas.
No, yeah, that's an awesome mission. So,
Mhm.
what would you say is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started this company?
I wish I knew what a burn rate was.
Like what? Like what specifically was it that
Uh, I think I wish that I had known that the bigger it's sort of like, to go like reference 90s hip hop, more money, more problems, right?
Right.
It's like, I guess I thought maybe at some point we would make enough money that some of the things that we experience running a healthcare organization would stop being something. But I think the bigger you are, the more I think that pressure is to sustain the entity, and it costs more, right? It's like, okay, how do we make this more effective? I think I wish I understood that better, because it's different when it's you that's in charge of the ship, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's one thing when you have your own practice, and it's just you. When you have a lot of people that you're responsible for, it's a big responsibility. It's important to make sure that they're happy, that your clients are happy, that that there's so many moving pieces that you have, as opposed to like when it's just you and you're in full control. Otherwise, like, you're not in the room when somebody else is doing a session. So you need to make sure this is the right person, and they're
Mhm.
doing a good job. Like there's so many challenges there for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I wish I had known that. And I think I wish I had known, what's the right way to put it? I think I wish I had known that how meaningful it would be, I think, as well, because like I said, when I started this process, it was meeting a need, and then it became clearer and clearer that there was more need. The business actually grew because of COVID and because of personal circumstances with my immediate family and losses, I think that entrepreneurship is a very challenging and rewarding, like intrinsically rewarding process. And so I wish I would have known earlier. Maybe I would have been brave earlier in life, if that makes sense.
Right, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a common thing that we hear on this podcast is everyone's like, oh, I wish I would have started earlier. But there's no, I mean, oftentimes, like everything happens for a reason. It's sort of why timing aligns how it does. And so, yeah, it's like if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your company website or social media, just best ways to get in contact with you?
Sure. Our company website is www.TRSOFAZ.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. We're on all the major, and just Googling us, trauma recovery services, we pop up. So,
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Jordanna, thank you so much for your time today. We're rooting for you, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed speaking with you. Have a good day.
Likewise. Thanks, you too. All right, bye.
Bye.